enhancement themes are a uniquely Scottish initiative. We're really proud of it as a sector. They've been going on now since the early 2000s, and we've had a number of enhancement themes. They are one of the pillars of the Scottish Quality Enhancement Framework. So there are 5 aspects to that. The enhancement themes are one of those 5 aspects. It's always a topic that the sector decides on and carries through with the support of the QAA, but it's a sector-led decision and management of the themes. So we've covered topics like flexible learning, assessment, first-year student experience, graduate attributes, graduates for the 21st century, and now we're just completing student transitions. Well, if we think about a couple of the items that are on the logic model, the first one was to get a better understanding of student transitions. We've certainly done that. It was very clear at the beginning of the theme that both institutions and individuals had a fairly simplistic view of what student transitions was about. We have now understood the complexities, and some of the speakers at this Enhancement Themes conference have highlighted the complexities of diverse transitions for the whole variety of students who are coming to our universities. So much better understandings. When you've got better understandings though, what do they mean in practice? So the second thing is, how do we help universities to apply that better understanding in practice? That's where you do things like produce tools, resources, run events to disseminate ideas. So there's been a lot of engagement with the sector to try and develop practices as well as understandings. For me, probably the biggest thing is that the theme has had a kind of change management side to it. So we have set out on a journey together, and we knew that we had to involve people, both staff and students in the universities, in order to make sure that we weren't just discovering new ideas, but we were taking people along with us. So there's been a lot of people across the sector involved in that. There have been new communities of practice that have developed, and we've really, I think, improved the way that we work with students in using them as part of the theme. Once you drill down to the institutions, then you realise that one, there are strategies around student transitions, so it's made it into the strategy level of institutions, and the discourse in institutions has changed. We didn't used to talk about student transitions in this way. Now it's common parlance in institutions. So it has really become embedded within, this is the way we do things around here within institutions, not just in the sector generally. I would like to think that those understandings, those initiatives, those ways of doing things differently will persist. Some of them will. The reality is some of them will depend on resources and they may not survive. But you don't unlearn what you've learned. So hopefully we will carry on understanding better what the students are going through when they come to university. I think the other thing is that we've learned a lot about enhancement, about managing change as a sector, and hopefully that will be carried forward into the next theme and following themes as well.
Okay, well, the next enhancement theme is evidence-based enhancement. At the moment in the sector, we're being confronted by a wave of new data, new metrics, the TEF, a whole range of things that universities are a little bit, struggling to come to terms with exactly what that means. I think we need, as a sector, to pool our resources to think through what evidence there is being produced about universities, and also what evidence we're producing ourselves, and then how we can work together to move things forward to enhance the student experience. I think the landscape has changed in the last 3 to 5 years. The world is changing in relation to just the sheer scale of data. its availability, its ubiquity. So we're seeing at the moment that there is so much data available, and quite often universities and students are struggling to make sense of that data. At the moment as well, much of that data is being driven from down south, for example, from England. And I think the Scottish sector needs to do its own thinking about what it wants to do with data and not be driven entirely by externally released data. For example, the data that's going to be released next week is longitudinal educational outcomes data, which will give data about the sort of starting salaries and then the salaries of people in jobs 1, 3, 5 years later. We don't really understand that data yet, and getting to grips with that is going to require a whole sector to think about it rather than a lot of individual institutions trying to work it out. Well, one of the strengths of the current theme has been the way in which students have been engaged on the theme leaders group, and that's really strengthened the student voice in the shaping of the theme itself. So I think if we plan this theme really well from the start and involve students through that network and through the wider networks across the sector, then I think if it's co-designed by students, that gives it a much greater chance to actually appeal to a much wider student body. Evidence is all around us now. Students are subject to an avalanche of data, league tables, metrics and so forth. And if we can help them to navigate that and to understand which of those measures are really legitimate and make sense and have real currency, then I think we can help them to understand how we can, as a sector, learn what to focus on. At the moment in the Scottish sector, we probably don't have very good data about the sector as a whole and what we're really good at and where we need to improve. So I'm hoping that we can work closely with students to identify some things that are really worth focusing on, and then with a collective will and effort we can really make a difference.